The hoodoo conjure and root work is a Christian tradition. Some people don't like that and or don't believe that, but it was hammered into me by my teachers and is borne out by pre-internet records of the tradition and by African American history. Now, you need to understand that the history of Christianity and conjure is complicated and is tied up in the slave trade and with efforts to break apart existing African community ties. In areas of English colonial influence, there was a massive effort to separate family groups and language groups, and therefore separate African religious groups so African religion could no longer be practiced. West African religion was and is communal, and the only communal religion open to these separated and mixed-up communities of slaves was Christianity. Also, West African religion has a history of being open to worshiping the gods of other peoples. It was common that, if you fought in a war and were defeated by another tribal group, that you might begin worshiping their god or gods because obviously they were stronger than yours. So there would be sound reasons for adopting the religious practices of the people who had enslaved you within African theology. Additionally, Christianity was present in Africa prior to the slave trade and was not an unfamiliar religion. What happened among the slave population was the creation of unique Black expressions of Christianity, ones which empowered and gave hope to the slave population. This wasn't a cover for African beliefs. This was a sincere expression of Black Christianity which lasts to this day. Areas where African family and language groups were not broken up, such as in the Gullah Geechee communities, have much more African expressions of Christianity, but it is still Christianity. Root workers in the past were very devout, and most root workers are to this day. It wasn't uncommon for the pastor or the preacher to also be a root worker. It's only recently that people have wanted to uncouple Christianity from root work and make it about ancestral veneration, which is not how the tradition has historically been practiced. Yes, there has always been an acknowledgement and respect for one's ancestors, but they are not the underlying power behind the tradition. Many people have complex relationships with Christianity, and many people want to disconnect from it. My teachers and elders wouldn't have recognized this. They were all Christian, although with varying degrees of devoutness, and they drew power from God and from Scripture. The way one of my teachers explained it to me is like this. Root work is like cooking. It has 3 parts. Your herbs and roots and candles are like your cooking ingredients. The root worker is like the cook, who knows the recipes and how to use those ingredients to turn them from separate things into an effective dish. God is your oven, your fire, your heat. You can't cook food without an oven, you just end up with a bunch of raw ingredients. You can't do root work without God, because He provides the flame which brings your work to fruition within the world. Again, this is all very complicated. People quite rightly have all kinds of feelings about Christianity. Yes, it was forced on the slave population, but also they embraced it and made it their own and used it as a source of strength and power. People sometimes have different family traditions depending upon where their family is from. In the end, I can only pass on what I was taught, and I was taught that Christianity is a huge root of the tradition, and that you can't conjure without it.